I just cannot anymore. Ban him. No one should ever pay this man a cent ever again to be on their basketball team. He is a fraud. We have Americans struggling to make ends meet, and Joel Embiid is sitting there on the bench in street clothing collecting millions of dollars. Where do I sign up to be the 76ers bench boy? Okay, it is Wednesday, January 29th. We'll discuss the Steelers quarterback situation for 2025 based on comments Art Rooney made yesterday. News broke about an NBA superstar potentially on the move. And Hal Steinbrenner had some interesting comments about the Dodgers. This is the Early Game Podcast. Listen to the show in the mornings on your commute, whenever and wherever, so you can be a part of today's sports conversations. Let's go. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about today is connected to the fact that there's almost nothing NFL-wise to talk about. And we're a week and a half out from the Super Bowl, and we'll get so much into that as it gets closer. But the elephant in the room is that the Pro Bowl is upon us. The Pro Bowl is the worst event put on by any of the four major sport teams. I genuinely think that. I don't think there's anything baseball does. I don't think there's anything basketball does. I don't think there's anything hockey does. And as great as the NFL is, there is nothing worse that I have less interest in watching than the Pro Bowl. And so yesterday, it was announced that Russell Wilson and Drake May are going to be in the Pro Bowl. They will be quarterbacks for the AFC. God, this is the best we can do? Do you genuinely think people are going to want to watch this event with Russell Wilson? Drake May? Drake May didn't even play the entire season. Frankly, I didn't even know what even is the current format of this event. It is time for football, hockey, and basketball to get rid of their all-star games. The only league that actually knows how to do it right is baseball. At least in baseball, the players try. Players participate. Now, the difference between baseball and football is in baseball, it's during the season. In football, it's afterwards. Do you think Josh Allen, a week after being eliminated by Patrick Mahomes, wants to participate in the Pro Bowl? He's going to be out golfing somewhere nice and warm. Do you think in the NBA, where players will take any excuse they can not to play? We'll get a little bit into that more later on. Do you think that NBA players are going to willingly play a meaningless game? I mean, this is ridiculous already. Look, if they're able to make money, I get it. But for the integrity of the event, it's time to put this puppy down. It's time to send the Pro Bowl to the yard above. Here's my idea. If you're so insistent on having some sort of Pro Bowl event, some sort of all-star event, do it in like April. Make the game in March or in April or May. Everyone's itching for football. Then all I see on Twitter, on X, are X amount of days until a training camp, and we're hearing the graveyard rumors of the NFL offseason. Have a random weekend in the middle of the spring everybody could look forward to, where you get to see your favorite characters from the NFL come together. That's my idea. I mean, what even do they play a flag football game? Is that what it is? I don't even know anymore. They do these skills competitions. I just cannot believe in a game that is supposed to highlight the league's best players, we're talking about Russell Wilson and Drake May. J.J. Watt had a tweet yesterday. He said they should rename it the Participation Bowl. That is exactly what it is. And that's coming from a player in the NFL. I mean, it has turned into a complete joke. Let's move on. Yesterday, the Cowboys announced they're hiring Matt Eberflus to be their next defensive coordinator. He was fired this past season after a failed stint as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. He'd previously spent 7 seasons as the linebackers coach with the Cowboys. That was before spending 4 years as the defensive coordinator of the Colts. And look, he was really good as a defensive coordinator in Indy. His defense is always ranked towards the top of the league. The funny part to me is just the fact that the Cowboys hired this big risk, and those are Jerry Jones' words, in Brian Schottenheimer, and then turn around and hire one of the biggest head coach laughingstocks in recent memory in Matt Eberflus. Jerry Jones has been criticized at length for the last few seasons, and everybody is killing him for the Schottenheimer hire. And now they're seemingly doubling down with this controversial pick. And again, he was a good defensive coordinator with the Colts. He has obviously a lot of experience in Dallas, so he checks boxes. Let's not get that wrong. He's not going to have to call timeouts and allocate his timeouts as the defensive coordinator. And if anything, you want to make the argument that now Brian Schottenheimer has some sort of experience on his staff. Experience, whatever, if you want to call what he did in Chicago experience. If you want to make that argument, fine. The optic, though, to me, is just hilarious. I'd understand if Steve Spagnuolo had gotten a head coaching job and Andy Reid wanted to hire him as his defensive coordinator, kind of like Matt Nagy. So, Matt Nagy is now the offensive coordinator with the Chiefs. How funny would that have been? If Steve Spagnuolo became a head coach in this cycle and the Chiefs hired Matt Eberflus to be their defensive coordinator and they just had both of the last 2 Chicago Bears head coach failures as their coordinators. That would have been hilarious. Okay, let's move on. As I said in the beginning, Art Rooney II had some comments regarding their quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. Talking about both of his quarterbacks, both free agents, they were both on 1-year deals. That's Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, who we mentioned before. The Pro Bowler, Russell Wilson. This is what he said about the two of them. I think they're both capable quarterbacks, and my preference would be to sign one of them. That'll be a priority, and I think that will give us the best opportunity to move forward. Obviously, we'll be looking in the draft as well. We've got a whole quarterback room to fill, and so there's jobs open in there. I wouldn't be surprised if we look at the draft as well, either this year or next. I think it's pretty obvious how this is going to go in terms of where Russell Wilson will go and where Justin Fields will go. Let's not forget, Pete Carroll is back in the NFL. His team, the Las Vegas Raiders, do not have a quarterback. You have to think he is going to be interested in bringing back his former QB. And frankly, that's what he should do. Bring Russ back. Get the gang back together. Maybe the familiarity will be good for Russ. Try to revive his career a little. And if there's a quarterback you like in the draft, you can draft him to sit and learn behind Russell Wilson. They're drafting 6th, the Raiders. They're not going to get the Cam Wards. They're not going to get the Shedeur Sanders. Maybe if Jalen Milroe falls to you, you take him. If you're the Raiders. And the same thing with the Steelers. That leaves Justin Fields for them. And if they keep Justin Fields, maybe they take Jalen Milroe. And I think this is what's gonna end up happening over the next couple months. I'm going to throw Jalen Milroe as this late first rounder that anyone could have that's kind of like a little bit of a diamond in the rough. Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, those two guys, I'm literally going to reference them as quarterbacks to be taken late in the first round as projects to be the next Lamar Jackson. If the Steelers are interested in Justin Fields, nice. We spoke the other day about how Baker will probably never win a Super Bowl for Tampa. And in that same discussion, I said Liam Cohen's issue will be winning in the AFC with all of the good quarterbacks. If you're the Steelers and you think you can win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields as your quarterback, you are sorely mistaken. Now, I know Art Rooney said they are going to look to also draft a quarterback possibly, and that the quarterback room has positions to fill. I get that. But he also said previously that he wants a quarterback for more than a 1-year commitment. Guys, it is time to bite the bullet. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you need to find a way to draft a serviceable quarterback. And frankly, the Raiders will not win the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson either. But the Raiders are not as far along. They're not as thirsty for a Super Bowl as the Steelers are. Pete Carroll, as much as he said yesterday that they're not going to rebuild, they're going to try to win from scratch, it's not as easy as that. I know you're a great head coach, and I said yesterday you're the best hire of the offseason. But it's not as easy as just saying let's rebuild now in a conference with Lamar, with Patrick Mahomes, with Josh Allen, with Joe Burrow. And so the Raiders would not win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. And there's even less of a chance that the Steelers can win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields. Even with a Mike Tomlin run defense, even a Steelers team that could will their way with their defense, it could not happen. So, yes, it seems like one of Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is going to stay in Pittsburgh. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Justin Fields. And I wouldn't be shocked if Russell Wilson ends up in Las Vegas with Pete Carroll. And both teams are just fighting for a playoff spot. And they are an easy win for whatever the 2 seed is in the conference next year. Okay, let's move on to the NBA. And we have a now recurring segment. We have 2 recurring players we speak about in the NBA pretty much for the last couple weeks. Jimmy Butler, spoke about him yesterday. He was suspended indefinitely. But our new segment on here, and the other player we talk about is, why was Embiid trending last night? Okay, so last night, the reason Joel Embiid was trending was because of this graphic that popped up on the screen during the 76ers game. By the way, shocker, breaking news, he wasn't playing. The graphic said facts, nothing crazy. Just listed the games he has played in his career. So he has played 446 games over his time in Philadelphia. Right next to that number, it also said he has missed 400 games. He's played 446. He's missed 400. He's missed 47% of the games since he's been on the 76ers. That is almost half. I just cannot anymore. Ban him. No one should ever pay this man a cent ever again to be on their basketball team. He is a fraud. We have Americans struggling to make ends meet, and Joel Embiid is sitting there on the bench in street clothing collecting millions of dollars. Where do I sign up to be the 76ers bench boy? SpotRack came up with the number here that Joel Embiid has made nearly $266 million in his career while missing 400 games. while missing 47% of the games. And can I tell you the sad thing? It won't matter. Whenever his contract is up, I don't have that off the top of my head, he'll get another one. He'll make more money. For some reason, teams look past all these things that are baggage for players. So Jimmy Butler, everyone seems to be looking past the fact that he is a locker room cancer. He does this everywhere he goes. And if you think Joel Embiid, whenever he's going to have another opportunity out of the contract, if you think teams aren't going to look the other way for the fact that he's missed 47% of the games he was supposed to be participating in, you're mistaken. Some team is going to pony up. Maybe it's even the 76ers, the team that's watched him sit and collect paycheck after paycheck without playing for them, without putting in his work. Man, that bothers me to no end. You are an athlete, you're a professional, you have kids watching you every day, and you're teaching kids, you're teaching youth, you're teaching people in America that it's okay just to sit back and do nothing and collect your paycheck. Hard work doesn't matter. It blows my mind. Okay, we had another NBA story yesterday. Shams Charania tweeted, just in, the Sacramento Kings are expected to open up talks to potentially deal All-Star De'Aaron Fox ahead of February 6th trade deadline. Sources tell ESPN. There will be plenty of suitors, but it's believed that Fox has a target destination in mind ahead of 2026 free agency. This is huge. We don't often get players of De'Aaron Fox's caliber available at the deadline. I mean, in recent years, we saw James Harden, Kyrie Irving were traded in the middle of the season, but those were kind of unique. You know, James Harden, ironically, they both wanted out of Brooklyn. I guess in KD too. They all wanted out of Brooklyn. Maybe that's the unique factor. All three of them. But here, we have an impact player out from the Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox, who really can take a team to another level. He's that kind of player. Ironically, one team that's been linked to them is the rebuilding Brooklyn Nets. They're no stranger to making big in-season trades. Nets are not competing for anything this season. I think another team that would make a lot of sense are the Golden State Warriors, although their team leaders have come out and said that they don't want to sacrifice the future. They want to mortgage the future just to win this year. We've spoken about that too. Okay, let's move on. We've got two baseball stories to close out the show. The first baseball story is this Hal Steinbrenner quote. So Hal Steinbrenner went on Yes Network last night, and he commented on the Dodgers continuing to spend money. He said, "It's difficult for most of us owners to be able to do the kinds of things they're doing. We'll see if it pays off. They still have a season relatively injury-free. They still have to have a season relatively injury-free for it to work out for them." Oh no, trouble in paradise for the evil empire. This is insane to me. Coming from a Steinbrenner, coming from a family that spent his father who did this exact thing. Look, the Dodgers haven't won enough yet to be the evil empire 2.0, but they're spending like it. And for Hal Steinbrenner to come out and knock it is just the most hypocritical thing I've heard in a long time. Look, the Dodgers are spending a lot of money, but can we stop getting all sad that the Japanese players want to play for them? Can we stop getting all sad that the Dodgers are the ones willing to commit money and years to Ohtani, to Mookie Betts, to Freddie Freeman? They were the only team willing to give Blake Snell a long-term contract? That they were the only team willing to give some of these relievers, Tanner Scott, long-term deals, or spend $13 million on Kirby Yates? That was officially announced last night, by the way. All these teams are crying poverty when the Dodgers are just willing to do what other teams are not. Only recently did every team decide they're not going to sign players long-term. And now there's one team who is willing to. One team that recognizes the window that they have. And yeah, part of the reason is because these players are willing to take deferrals. Good for them. They figured it out. They figured out a way to make it work. Hopefully the rest of baseball catches up to the Dodgers and follows suit. Other teams are allowed to defer money. The Dodgers have about $375 million committed to payroll. They're going to be taxed 100% on that, every dollar over $300 million. Yeah, so they don't have to pay the payroll now because it's deferred. They figured out a way around it. I see no problem. And this is coming from a Mets fan. We'll get to the Mets in a second. This is coming from a Mets fan. I don't have any problem with what Steve Cohen or David Stearns does or what they've done this offseason, unlike a lot of ungrateful Mets fans. But the Mets could do it. Mets could defer money, and they choose not to. Now, I'm sure, look, add up all the factors. Playing in LA, a lot of money with a superstar team, sounds pretty good to me. So shocking that all these players want to play there and take these deals. The one that sticks out to me, by the way, and I just mentioned it, but Blake Snell couldn't lick a contract last offseason. And so they offer him, I think, what was a 4-year deal. Why wouldn't he take it? A team finally offers him a long-term deal. Why wouldn't he take it? After he had such a long offseason last year. Wow, sounds like a horrible idea to go play for the Dodgers. Just won the World Series for 4 years. Sounds horrible to me. People make no sense. These fans make no sense. Go yell at your teams. Don't yell at the Dodgers. Let's move on. Okay, last story of the day. It's our daily Pete Alonso update. I feel like I'm flip-flopping between Bregman and Alonso every day. And that's just the point of the offseason we're at. I mean, we're 2 weeks away from spring training. And by the way, we'll do previews of each team, previews of each division. Not sure exactly how we'll do it, but maybe 30 days leading up to the season, we'll do a preview for each team. But we still have some free agents not signed. The two big ones are Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso, although there are a bunch of pitchers as well. But let's talk about Pete today. So yesterday, rumors came out that the Mets are in touch with the Orioles about a potential Ryan Mountcastle trade. This comes days after they were reportedly talking to the Tigers about a Spencer Torkelson deal. Look, if you really take these seriously, that's the wrong way of putting it. This is a negotiation tactic for Steve Cohen and the Mets, for David Stearns and the Mets. Yes, if you're going to be trying to play hardball with Scott Boras and Pete Alonso, you have to show that you have other alternatives. You have other avenues. If you don't understand that about negotiating, I'm sorry. That's just how it works. And I've been saying all along, Pete wants to be a Met. Mets are going to be willing to bring him back at their price. And then John Heyman last night said in an article that Steve Cohen was on the phone with Scott Boras Monday, re-engaging in Pete talk. Let's just end this already. Pete, you're not getting a better deal anywhere else. Or Scott. Maybe it's not Pete. Maybe Scott Boras. Listen up. I'm sure you listen to this. I'm sure you're listening to the show. You are not going to get a better deal elsewhere. Let Pete sign. He can go spend the next 2 weeks in Cabo before he has to report to Port St. Lucie. Call it a day. You're better off batting behind Soto in front of Mark Vientos than wherever else you could possibly go. And I just want to say one thing. I had a source that told me 2 days ago that Pete rejected a trade from the Blue Jays. Then Mark Healy comes out. And by the way, I had that scoop. early on Monday. It was on Monday's show. Mark Healy comes out yesterday saying basically the same thing, and then crediting Andy Martino. Andy Martino never said that. Andy Martino said that they were at the 10-yard line. The Blue Jays were at the 10-yard line with Pete. I'm the one who said that Pete nixed that deal. I mean, talk about a lack of journalistic integrity. Somebody actually said in a comment I saw that I just ripped off Healy. That's why it's not right to not credit the right person. All right. That's a show. This is the Early Game Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Follow on Spotify. Following on X. Have a fantastic day.